everybody, welcome to another video. My name is Infiniti and today I am back with another Sentro knitting machine tutorial. Today I want to show you guys how to put your tube of knitting back on this machine. I have been working on some projects recently where I have had to frog things, and I found it easier to just cast off my project and rip those rows back, and then I was like, I don't really want to hand knit this, so let me try to get this back on the machine. And when I did do that, I had really good results. So here I am in another situation where I have to do that, and I wanted to show you guys how I go about that process. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into this. So here I have the top of my project where I want to recast on my tube. I was in the middle of a color change, so I am going to look at this loop where the yarn is coming out of. All of these stitches are live, so if you are comfortable, if you're more comfortable, you could thread a lifeline or some waste yarn through these loops so that you don't lose them. You will want a loom pick or a small crochet hook for this process, and you're going to want to turn your machine back around to where your indicator needle is up and the one next to it is up. Now, like I said, I'm in the process of doing a color change, so I know that this loop with the tail coming out of it belongs on this last white needle right here. So I just put that loop back on there. And I am going to hold these other live loops in my case because I am not using waste yarn. And I'm simply going to take my loom pick and insert it from back to front of that loop, and I'm going to simply place it over the indicator needle, making sure that it gets underneath the hooks of the pin. And that's all. So I'm going to slowly turn this, again picking up each loop from back to front very carefully and pulling it over its respective peg. Again, making sure I have a good hold on my loops. This is where your line, your little lifeline, will come in handy, but as long as you're careful, you shouldn't lose your loops. And if you do lose stitches, it is easy to get a crochet hook and get in there and repair that. If you don't know how to fix a drop stitch in knitting, I do have tutorials for that back on my channel. But after you recreate that stitch, you can just loop it back onto the needle. And as you near the end of your round of stitches, you will notice that things get a little tight, but it shouldn't be so tight that you can't work that last stitch on there. Oops, I dropped him. So let me fix this. Now that I fixed that, I can just guide this last stitch over the last peg. Alright, now that I have put my yarn back on my machine, I want to continue where I left off. So like I said, I was changing color in my project, and so this last peg is where my yarn is coming out of. Now what you do want to keep in mind as you turn the rows is to make sure your loops are going all the way down around those bottom pegs, these things here, so that your stitches will actually weave and you don't drop anything. So what I'm going to do is get my other color, and I'm going to go ahead and lay it to the right hand side of my black indicator needle and pop it back into the threader. If you're working with the same color though, you just do the same thing but with the same color. I just thought that this would be easier to see. Alright, so now I just want to crank this first row very slowly, again making sure that those strands are going back to the base of the needles as I turn this machine, because if they aren't, that means the machine isn't properly catching our thread or our yarn. Alright, and see we have some problems with some dropping here. For whatever reason, these two needles did not catch those stitches. Probably because there was no yarn in them, but that's okay because we can just put them back on the machine and press them down in there. Make sure they're down around those bottom pegs. Alright, and then we're gonna crank. That's why it's so good to crank slow on that first couple of rows here, just like when you normally cast on. But alright, now it appears that all the pins have caught my new yarn, but I'm still going to crank this first couple of rows very, very slowly to make sure that I won't be missing any stitches going forward, because that's the whole reason I had to take my tube off in the first place. And then from there you should be good to go. I have quite the long project here. So let me move it to the side so I can crank better. Alright. And if it bothers you too much, you could just loosely tie these strands together because you'll be weaving them in later anyway, but just so you don't have that gaping hole in your project while you're turning. I don't know about you guys, but it bothers me. Alright. And you can just continue to work your project as normal. Alright, so I have cranked up all the rows that I need for the completion of my project, so I'm just going to go about casting off. If you are new to this machine, I have an entire playlist on how to get started with it, how to cast on and how to cast off separately and things like that. So if you want to see those videos, they are in a playlist back on my channel. But alright, so I'm just going to go about casting off. You guys know the drill. I'm going to crank a full row without yarn. So I want to show you guys what it looks like where we recast these stitches. So I'll meet you guys back after I've looped off all these stitches. Alright, as you guys can see, I have cast off here, and this, right along where this color change is, you can see that it's nice and seamless. Didn't really cause any disruption in your project at all. I hope today's video was helpful for you guys. If so, don't forget to leave it a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, and I will try to answer you to the best of my ability. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on my future Sentro knitting machine tutorials. I've been trying something new this year with posting them either on a Wednesday or a Thursday, trying to kind of expand how I cater to my audience. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, subscribe, hang around, I've got you. You can check me out on Instagram, where I'm most active outside of YouTube and outside of my blog, InfinityCraftingCompany.com. Speaking of my website, you can head over there and sign up for the newsletter so you get notified when a blog post goes up. And the fun thing about those is that usually I have some kind of maker notes go up when I post Sentro content. So there's that info, and until next time, guys, happy making.